Hello everyone! In this episode, we're going to break down the new Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Jumping right in, we get the new Marvel Studios special intro, just like in Werewolf by Night. This pretty much confirms that this will be the same one they use moving forward for all of their new specials. The classic intro is also updated, as it's now full of Christmas comic strips, falling snow, and Christmas lights wrapped around the logo. She-Hulk can even be seen making an appearance. We pick up in an animated flashback, which I personally just did not like it. I didn't like the animation, that is. And I'm not exactly sure why. Like, I get that it's supposed to feel more like older styles, but it still threw me off a bit. I didn't realize it at first, but these flashbacks actually take place in the same room the Guardians finally become a team in the first movie. As we see Yondu come back for what I believe is the first time since his passing in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he references his old Guardians team featuring Sylvester Stallone when bringing up Olgord. All of this is basically just a retelling by Kraglin of Peter Quill's first Christmas with them. Now we all know that Drax has very sensitive nipples by his lack of upper clothing, but he seems to have grown past that irritability at this point. The Guardians as a whole have clearly grown as they bought the Celestial Head Nowhere from the Collector. Speaking of, it was a little unclear if he survived against Thanos back in Infinity War, but this proves it. Oh, and don't even get me started on just how swole Groot is now, because he has quite literally grown. Also returning is Cosmo the Space Dog, after her appearance in the Guardians 2 post-credits scene, now with literal speaking lines and telekinesis. I found it pretty funny that Rocket was calling her mutt and stuff when obviously he hates being called simple things like raccoon. And I know I can't be the only one who actually enjoyed the lyrically awful Christmas song, which I definitely didn't play on actual Christmas. However, the song does have some truth to it in a way when talking about Santa Claus having to have powers. If the MCU goes down the path like it did in the comics, Santa is actually real, along as one of the most powerful mutants. With Guardians 3 coming around the corner, we're all speculating on who may kick the bucket. Fans have noticed that in previous films, the color of the logo corresponds with who ends up sacrificing themselves. But thankfully the special keeps it relaxed and just gives us a jolly red and green Christmas logo. So if you knew about this detail right off the bat, you didn't have to worry about anything, or if you just pay attention to the fact that it was a Christmas special, you also didn't have to worry. Another thing fans have theorized since Guardians 2 is the relationship between Peter Quill and Mantis. After scenes were deleted of Quill's dad, Ego, with a woman of the same species as Mantis, it seemed like the two could have been siblings. During Ego's retelling of his mission, this can also be supported by the depictions of him with this woman in the top left corner, which now we know to be true and is the driving force for this whole special. As Drax and Mantis head to Earth, the Hexagon space portals make a return while they fly in their new ship called the Bowie, named after David Bowie. On Earth, we see many cosplayers dressed as other Avengers, such as Ant-Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, and Captain Marvel. This leads to what I thought was a very funny scene with Mantis yelling Steve and jumping on that random man. Captain Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean, another Disney-owned property, is among the other cosplayers. This whole scene takes place in one of the same locations featured in Iron Man 3, with some posters in the background for Kingo's movies that we learned about in the Eternals. So there's a lot going on here. I'm not sure how many of you all watched She-Hulk, but I fully expected Mantis to start twerking in the bar just like in that show. Am I saying I would have looked the other way? No, not exactly. We also get some cameos from actors James Gunn worked with in the Suicide Squad movie that came out before this. People like John Cena, Margot Robbie, Flula Borg, and Steve G, if I'm saying that right, all show up, which is really cool on Gunn's part. Once they get inside of Kevin Bacon's home, I was disgusted and kind of scared of the way Mantis was jumping and crawling around on everything. I mean, she always seems ready for a fight now, but seeing this just makes me believe she can completely hold her own. It does make me wonder why she couldn't just get over the fence herself though, instead of Drex throwing her. I mean, she seemed to be jumping pretty high during the chase scenes, or at least like, why couldn't she crawl over it? But it doesn't matter. And speaking of holding her own, man, watching her and Drax fight the police makes you realize just how dangerous they would be as villains. I mean, the man was literally laughing at bullets while she swooped around putting everyone to sleep. Similar to the Eternals with their Superman reference, Kevin Bacon pretends to be Batman and Bruce Wayne. At this point, it's easiest to assume that the rivaling comic industries are just comic books in each other's universes. Like, I honestly cannot imagine a normal moviegoer trying to decipher who belongs to what property anymore. And as wrong as it was, the whole gesture of kidnapping Kevin Bacon and all for Quill was pretty sweet. It shows how much Mantis has matured since the second film, since she's learned more about social cues. While we didn't get much of Rocket this time around, he definitely stood out during his parts. I couldn't help but crack up at him dashing at Kevin after being called a raccoon, even though we've seen it done multiple times now. The same thing can be said with Groot. Although this is basically the offspring of the previous Groot, this one still has a ton of character as he ages, and clearly likes gaming considering he receives a new Game Boy after we've seen him addicted to games. He even does a really cute little hop after that. It's pretty funny. But one of the most shocking parts of the special was the reveal of Nebula stealing Bucky's literal arm for Rocket. Not only has she grown by listening to others and letting loose as she dances later on, but that's literally the same arm Bucky had the last time we saw him. So hopefully this man has gotten an upgrade since and isn't just running around unarmed. The rest of the team also receives heartfelt gifts. Cosmo gives Kraglin what appears to be the same species rat that we've seen before, and Groot gives them all dioramas of the events we just watched unfold. It does make me wonder if he created them out of himself though. But either way, it does tie into the I Am Groot series as well, considering just how artistic he was as a baby. And jumping back to the rest of the flashbacks, we get more proof that Yondu has always been a pretty good dad. We even get to see the origins of Quill's elemental blasters, giving them much more meaning now. Then a nice little callback to Taserface from Guardians 2 can be seen as a present wrap for him is among the rest of the decorations. Now, I'm not even going to try to lie. I teared up. I couldn't help myself. The acting from Palm Clementif, I know I'm not saying that right, but the actress for Mantis and Chris Pratt just really sold it for me. Especially since she's all the biological family Quill has left now after the past few years. Plus, the toy he gave to Yondu as a Christmas gift got to me a little bit too, since I thought it looked like one we've seen him keep in the previous films. Then of course we have a classic post-credit scene which showed Groot attempting to be used as an actual Christmas tree. This may lead to another special, but it just doesn't seem likely now that James Gunn is going to be loyal to DC Studios for a while. And I can't imagine anyone else handling the Guardians characters, at least not this roster. A couple other details I thought were pretty cool was how Kraglin says he's still practicing his arrow control like at the end of the last movie. Something even bigger I didn't catch was Mark Hamill's cameo of him drinking. This shouldn't be too surprising since the special was inspired by the Star Wars one, but it's still beyond cool and I wish I would have caught it on my first viewing. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't anything crazy, but it didn't have to be. it was only supposed to be some nice holiday-fueled fun with some of Marvel's more fun characters, which I felt it delivered on. It gave the characters we know some growth before their next movie, while giving us tons of surprises and cameos all in about an hour. I'm not sure I really have anything to complain about. So, of course, I'm hopeful to see more down the line. But what did you think? Did you enjoy the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special? Let me know your thoughts and comment below anything I may have missed, because I'd love to hear it. And that's that. See ya.